computer audio. Okay. Now we're recording. That's good. So there is a handout on Canvas that tells you the basics of how to use Keyshot. But everything that you have for Keyshot starts in Rhino. We're going to look at, I'm going to pull up this ring for render here. Oh, that's better. Okay. Oh, don't open the file. Got it open already. Okay. So you guys may remember this example from the flow along surface command when I was explaining to you how you can do a, how you can create interesting textures by using the flow along surface command along with a ring surface that you made using your ring size. So what we're going to do with this is I have taken it now and I made it all a single ring. I Boolean unioned all these little spheres together. One of the things I also did that I didn't do in the original demo was I offset the spheres a little bit so that they would join together better. And you can see now I have one single ring. I copied this and pasted it to a new file so that in this Rhino file, the only thing that I have is this flow along surface ring. Okay, there's nothing else, and in any of the, there are no hidden objects, there's nothing else in any of the other layers. This is kind of important because when we move things into Keyshot, it's going to be looking at the Rhino file. And if you have too much stuff in your Rhino file, it's just going to confuse Keyshot, and this just makes it simpler for you. What you may remember is as we were finishing our rings, I asked each of you to save a copy of your ring without the sprue. This is important because this is what you need. And again, like I said, start a new file, copy and paste it from the one file, your working file, into this file and call it something having to do with render. You can see I called this one ring for render. So over here, I'm looking at it, and one of the things I want to check is which is the up direction. And you can see here that the up direction is Z. All right, and that's good to know because my ring is laying there. So one of the other things I was thinking about is how do I want to show this? And we'll talk, I'll do another demo late, probably on Tuesday, where I'm going to show you what a good ring rendering looks like. As far as how to center it in the frame, how to communicate scale just in a single image. But we're going to take this one and we're just going to leave it laying flat here, and we'll see what happens when we go to Keyshot. So I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to minimize it. I'm going to minimize Rhino, and now I'm going to open up Keyshot. Keyshot should be on your desktop. It says Keyshot 2023. There's been some updates to it if you've used it recently. Oh, look at that, they got a Les Paul in there. Nice. Looks like my Zoom froze up for a second. I suggest that you don't have a lot of stuff open when you're using Keyshot. It is a memory hog. So I'm going to, so it gives you a little splash screen when you first turn it on. You don't need this, you can close it. So here I have a blank screen. I'm going to talk just a little bit about what we have here. On the left side of your screen, this is what we call your library. This is where you can find models. If you want to just test some models and play with them and see what you have, you can just drag them onto this main screen area, kind of like your desktop. You can drag, then you can scale it, you can play around with these, but to be honest, we don't really need it. So I'm going to delete this. I'm going to hold down my right. Okay, delete selection. Right mouse button, delete selection. Wow, this is really lagging the Zoom. I hope this recording isn't too bad. Okay. So, but what I want to bring into this is not one of Keyshot's models, is I want to bring in my ring or my dragonfly. That's going to be your first Keyshot assignment. So I'm going to go open, And I'm going to go to my folder, and here you can see ring for render. I'm going to open that up. Now, this is why it was important that I notice where up is. The up orientation in Keyshot, when you first open it up, it's often Y. So I'm going to change it to, nope, not X. I'm going to change it to Z. That's the up direction. You'll notice that there's also negatives there as well. Depending on how you model, you might need those. But generally, most of the time when you're working in Rhino and you start things at the origin point, which is the 0, 0, 0, you most likely have your up direction being Z. So I'm going to hit import. Okay, look, and it brought it in. This is the default material. You can see that it's nothing special. Looks like it's just plastic. But what's really cool that you can notice here is that this looks realistic. It's one of the things that Keyshot does and what any rendering software does. And I'm going to try speaking slower just in the case that things are lagging in Zoom. What this does is it analyzes your model. And then it takes what it sees as the environment and the lighting, and it will try to recreate that in a realistic way. So the first thing I'm going to do is look at my environment. So we have a lot of different environments here. Let's see, there's interior, outdoors. Studio is generally what we use for rendering jewelry. Because if we were taking photos of your jewelry, we'd be doing it with lights behind fabric. We'd be using the lighting in a way that it looks like it's in a light box. So we have a bunch of these along here. That's the studio. We have 3-point, we have basic. Let's take this one. I like this one, the light tent. And it gives it a real nice, bright white background. You can see here where all the lights that it is showing there are reflected in each of these. And now I don't like the material. Let's change the material now. We're going to pull up our material over here in our library. And we're going to just drag that right on top of the ring. And you can see it just changes it. Now, what's really cool is that this information is now over on, and let me move my Zoom window. It's now over here in my scene. So let's go over that again. On the left-hand side is your library. It's your library of environments. It's your library of materials. It's your library of textures if you want to add textures to your materials. It's your library of extra models. You can even favorite certain materials. You can see we've got favorites here for jewelry, models, materials, automotive. But that's the library. Once I get the materials and the environment that I want, I can actually close this. And it gives me more room to work. And now over here in my scene, these are the things that actually affect what I have going on here. Now, navigate Rhino. You do use all 3 mouse buttons. Your mouse to zoom in and out. You can right click, and the right click doesn't work. Is it the regular click to change the camera angle? But I prefer to use these buttons up top here because I don't use Keyshot enough that my fingers remember which mouse buttons do what. So dolly is in and out. This is pan. If I click on this X here, and you can see that I can drag, that's actually the right button. Wow, this is running so slow. And then there's also rotate. Now, what we're rotating here, by the way, we're using the left mouse button, the regular mouse button. Wow, my zoom is so like, it looks like I'm giving you guys the finger. I'm not really trying to do that. But all that I'm rotating here is the camera. Remember, we're rendering, so it's important that we see the viewpoint of the camera. But suppose I want to move around my model. So I can right click on the model and I go to move part. And here I can translate, just means move. So you can use that to drag. We get this little tool here that looks like our gumball from Rhino. What I like to do though is turn off certain parts of it. I don't want to scale and I don't want to move. I just want to rotate. So you can see here I have my little rotate tools and I turned this. Let's leave it about there. And I'm going to zoom out. And part of the issue here is that it is through the ground plane. So I do need to bring it up a little bit. See how there were like those dark marks? That's the ground plane. Because we started at the origin in Rhino, now it's kind of floating above the ground plane. We really don't want to render it that way either. It doesn't look realistic because things don't really float in reality, right? So now I'm going to hit OK. And now I'm going to right click. And I like this. This is a new thing in the most recent Keyshot, is if I just right click on my main window, it'll give me the option to center and fit. So there we go. That's just really big though. That really doesn't look like a ring because of the size of it. If I was looking at a picture of a ring, I would expect it to be smaller in the frame. Right, and it'll look like a bracelet if it's like about this big. And if it's this big, it could be anything. Your imagination really can take over. So I'm gonna put it about here. And then I'm going to give it a test render. So what you're submitting when you work in Keyshot is not your Keyshot file. You're not submitting screenshots. What you're submitting is an image file that is created by Keyshot. So we'll go to this button at the bottom that says render your scene. And we're going to click on that. And we have a bunch of different options here. We can create animations, but we're not going to do that. I may demonstrate that to you later in the semester because it's really fun and it depends on how far ahead we are. But still image is what you want to create. Now we have to name it. I'm going to call this ring render test. I'm not going to make it a TIFF. A TIFF is a real heavy file. It has a lot of extra information for it if you want to go into Photoshop later. But let's go with a PNG or a JPEG. There are presets here for resolution. You can see that my pixel size of this image is 4000 by 2107. That's a lot. So if I printed it out, it would be 13 by 7. Let's just go with, let's make it smaller to start with because the larger your image, the longer the rendering takes. So let's go with 1280 by 674. And layers and passes. This you can change if you have different layers, whether or not to have them all. We don't have a bunch of different layers here, so we don't have to worry about that. All render passes, we want to have all of these things happen. So we're going to click that on. Now, if I hit render, oh, wait, then before we hit output, let's look at options. Maximum samples, how long, so CPU usage. You guys may have noticed already that sometimes you come in this lab and there are signs in front of the computers that say rendering because if you're trying to get a really detailed rendering, you might have to leave it alone for hours. So you want to look at maximum time right now, or maximum samples. Maximum samples, this is only 64 samples. That's not a lot. And by samples, I mean that's each time that the computer looks at your image, looks at the lighting, looks at the environment, and tries to make sense of all of those factors in creating this image. So it does take a lot of the CPU, the central processing unit of your computer, your brain power of your computer. You'll hear some of these computers start to make fan noises, and they sound like an airplane taking off. So samples, if you go by samples, the initial settings on these are kind of low. I like to go with a maximum time of maybe 5 minutes for a good one. But for this one, I'm going to just go with 1 minute, and we're going to go with 0.00 seconds. And pixel, the filter size, I'm not going to worry about that. And then you can set up more than one. Oh, this is an old one. You can set up more than one rendering to happen. So you can set up like 3 renderings. You can move it around in one way, go back, change the material maybe. Maybe you want to do one of your rings in gold, one of your rings in bronze, just like you cast it. And then you can have these here. Now, these guys, I'm not going to, I'm actually going to delete these because these are from a previous semester. Okay, come on, delete the job. I guess I got to select the whole thing, not just have them checked. Yes, I do. Okay. So back to output. I'm going to just add this to the queue. And now I'll close my render window. I'm going to move the zoom again. And now I'm going to bring up my library, which if I go to window, we bring up the library. Now I'm going to change the material to like this red anodized titanium. Ooh, I'm not sure I like that color, so I'm going to edit the material over here in my scene. Now, if I double click on this, I should get, wait a minute. Oh, that's right. I just went through this with here we go. There's the color. I want it to be red, but not that red as it was. Here we go. We can change it there. We use the color picker. Oh, wait. Oh, dang. Sorry. Back to there. Here. Oh, yeah. Look, it's down off the bottom here. I have to hit OK. And now I changed the color. So I'm going to go back to render. And now we're going to do another one. I'm going to keep it at the same preset. Options. This is all fine. I'm going to have that one. And all right, let's go back to here. I'm going to add it to the queue. And now I'm going to hit render. Let's see if it's going to render the whole queue or whether it's just going to render that one. So while it's rendering, it brings up another window. You can't do anything else while you're rendering. This is why people start rendering and walk away. They put a sign in front of their computer. Please don't do anything with my computer. Right? And you can see it's taken a little while. It's giving me the status on the bottom. Yes?
So these computers like sign you out after a while.
They do. They do. However, what you can do is you can go and start a YouTube video in the background. And you'll see there's oftentimes we'll put up like the 24-hour fireplace or, you know, let's watch the aquarium for the next 10 hours and stuff like that. So, yes.
You put in like 140p.
One what?
140p for like the resolution.
Did I put in 140?
No, like say like you want to play it in like the background like the video.
Yeah.
Like the lowest quality. So
Probably. Yeah. It's just okay. So now it says 100%. I'm going to close this and let's look at my queue. Oh, it didn't get them all. So here I can process the queue. let's actually, let's stop because I want to show you the image. Yes, I do want to cancel. So I'm gonna, so now the piece that I want to submit for my assignment, I'm going to go now to where hopefully I saved it. Where did I save it? Did I save it in my, I might not have. Let's go back to Keyshot. This is always the problem. Options, output. Where did I save it? Oh, I saved it in Keyshot renderings on the C drive. What I could do here is I can change where I want it to go. This will only work for the next ones. I'm going to go to that folder and find my image, but here I'm going to go up, up. Remember, we'll just use that up until we get our metals drive. Here we go, metal server, Barb Bauer. And we're going to call this, yeah, that's the folder. I'm going to select that folder. And now you can see that that's where I'm saving. I'm not going to render right now, but that's how I want to save it. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to put this down. And now I'm going to go to, what was that? The C drive was documents, was it? This PC, Windows, some program files, maybe Keyshot. Where did it save it? Said render. Nope, it saved it for where I wanted. Okay, let's go back to here and find it. Search ring. Thought it was in program files. Maybe it's just in documents. Anywhere in this PC, ring. That's why it's important to keep track of where your file is going before you do it. Gosh, all this searching, I could have just rendered it again in the right folder. Not over.
Copy the path.
No, I didn't copy it. No, I should have. I totally should have. We'll close the search. Heck with it. Let's just render it again. Now we know where it's going. So we're gonna let this render. Okay, so the first, so some of your exercises that you've been doing, you should have been saving them in your folder, right? You're gonna want to render them as the semester goes on. Once we're finished our exercise, all of the exercises, which I think this week is the last assignment. So you guys who are a little behind have some time to catch up. Where are we at here? Still rendering. And we're going to render the rings. You're going to want your ring to look that you have a couple options. First of all, you should do a basic studio rendering so that the ring looks really like your actual ring. And then you can do some playful ones where you bring it in a different environment, where you may want to make the material something weird like carpet or fabric. There's some like really crazy things that you can do with that. Okay, so that's done. Let's go to our, now I can go to metals, Barb. All right, so ring render test. Oh my goodness. Oh, it saved it all out. Okay. So these are extra things that we can use if you go into Photoshop and edit them. But here's my ring render test. It's a PNG file. And if I double click on it, it'll open in my regular image viewing software that we have on the computer. So this is a PNG file, this is what I would submit for the assignment. And this was generated by Keyshot. And you can see here, like it's got nice shadows. You can see that the ring is kind of on an angle, so I can see some of the inside, some of the outside. Something else that makes this, the ring speak visually as a ring is it looks like you could take your hand and just move it right into the screen and put it on. That's a way that we usually render rings. That's the way that we usually photograph rings. Like I said, it's nice to be able to see like a 3/4 view of your ring. So don't render your rings straight on in any direction. You can do a few renderings of them, and I'm going to show you examples of renderings on Tuesday. But so any questions so far? I know you guys have asked some questions while we're going on here, but I'm going to close this. I'm going to go back to Keyshot. I'm going to go to the queue, and I'm going to process the queue. And then I'm going to try to hide this. Let's see. I was going to process the queue and end the Zoom, but it looks like, well, I can, or can I? Yes. All right, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm also going to stop the recording. So no other questions? Okay, great.